Bonjour classe, bienvenue à notre classe en ligne. Here we go, French 2. You're going to need your textbook today, starting on page 302. Can you believe we've made it this far? This is it. Let's finish strong with some more reflexive verbs. So we start with this vocabulary. There are a few new reflexive verbs. You'll probably recognize some of them because we've already learned the verb, for example, amuser, which is to amuse, right? S'arrêter or arrêter just by itself is to stop. But when you use it in a reflexive way, that means you're doing it to yourself or for yourself. So for example, s'amuser, that's the infinitive with the se reflexive pronoun. If you were talking about yourself, you'd use the me pronoun. If you forgot about some of this stuff, go on back and look at the lesson 19 video one more time and refresh your memory on how reflexive verbs work. But to say, I'm having fun, literally, I'm amusing myself, you say, je m'amuse. You say, tu t'amuse, you are having fun. You say, il ou elle s'amuse, he or she is amusing themselves. So notice it's a very different way of saying that. In English, we say to have fun. But here they say to amuse yourself. So that's what's going on there. The next verb on the list, s'arrêter, is to stop yourself. So I'm going to stop over there. I'm going to stop by a friend's house. I'm going to stop by the store. That's when you use s'arrêter. Or if you're driving a car, I know some of you are taking driver's training or are getting ready to drive away with your license soon. Je m'arrête à la signe. I stop myself at the sign. Make sure you do. Be careful. Se dépêcher. That came from our translation last week, so you might recognize that if you had to look it up. Se dépêcher is to hurry yourself. So to tell someone to hurry up, you say dépêche-toi, hurry up. S'excuser. We already know this expression. You probably just didn't realize that it was reflexive per se, because you already know how to say, oh, je m'excuse, when you make a mistake or when you want to apologize. Je m'excuse, j'ai tort. Se souvenir de. This one's kind of fun because although at first glance it doesn't look like it, it is actually a cognate. Souvenir is a word that we have in English. Now think about that. What does it mean in English? It's something that you buy or that you collect from a place that you visited in order to remember that place and to remember that vacation. And se souvenir de means to remember. And I do want to point out to you, this little license plate, this picture that I have up here, is the official license plate of the province of Quebec in Canada, which is the French-speaking part of Canada. And the motto for the province of Quebec is Je me souviens. So what does their motto mean? I remember. Je me souviens. I remember where we come from. I remember the French culture. I remember the French language. That part of their culture is very important to them, so they have it on their license plate. Je me souviens. All right, again, all of these you'll notice in the infinitive they use the il or elle reflexive pronoun se. But again, when you use it in context, when you use it to talk about yourself, or when you use it to talk about tu or vous or nous, that's going to change. So instead of the se, it would be je me, right? Je m'amuse, je m'arrête, je me dépêche, je m'excuse, et je me souviens de. Très bien. To practice this, page 302, of course, is where you're looking. And you'll notice, once again, easy verbs to conjugate in context because they're all regular ER verbs except for this one. Souvenir, though, not too hard to do because if you look at it closely, you'll see venir is right there. And you guys know how to conjugate venir, do you? Je viens de, tu viens, il vient. Nous venons de, vous venez, ils viennent. Look it up if you forgot that one. But souvenir is conjugated exactly the same way. Just put a sou in front of the rest of the conjugation. So I've given you some practice here. I'm not going to submit a workbook page or anything to Google Classroom. You can just practice here on this flip chart. So here is the part to practice with these verbs in the present tense. And if you, I'm going to move myself over here just for a little bit. If you go to page 303, you will learn how to give commands with reflexive verbs. We all like to be able to tell each other what to do, right? So if you want to tell someone, hey, wake up, it's time to get moving, you're going to have to go back to lesson 19 because that's where we learned the verb wake up. We learned brush your teeth, okay? We learned go to bed last week, but then a couple of the new ones are in here as well. And this third one, I'm going to give you a hint. Be quiet. It is in your textbook. I'm just going to tell you what it is, okay? So if you've gone this far in the video and you're still listening, you're going to get the answer to this. Tais-toi. T-A-I-S hyphen T-O-I. Tais-toi. It's kind of a nice-ish way of telling someone to shut up. Good one to know. Tais-toi. Okay. So use these commands. Notice that when you give a command with a reflexive verb, you still kind of have a reflexive pronoun. It's not te or me or nu. It is the verb hyphen toi. Okay, and that's on page 303. They explain it all right there. Now, for the big reveal, this is the big part of this lesson. We've learned our reflexive verbs. You kind of know how to use them. You recognize what they look like. You did a really nice job on your translations last week. Thank you for that. This final part is how to do reflexive verbs in the passé composé. Woo! Are you excited? Sure you are. Let's review the passé composé real quick. If you remember the song from class, it goes like this. Passé, passé, passé composé. Sing with me. Avoir, être, participe passé. J'ai tout ce qu'il faut pour exprimer tous les verbes au passé composé. Avoir, être, participe passé. That is the key thing to remember now and to carry forward into French 3. So let's look at what the passé composé is with reflexive verbs. They are found in your textbook, on page 304, so refer to that page. And you will notice it's the same as our song sings about. Here is the subject, here is the helping verb, être. Something to know. All of these reflexive verbs use être in the passé composé. When we learned the Vandertramp story, we learned all of those être verbs. They got on the plane, monter. They returned to Paris, retourner. They went out, sortir. She fell down the stairs, tomber, and she died, mourir. All of those stories from the Vandertramp, or all of those verbs from the Vandertramp story use être. But if you remember when we first wrote down the notes, it was Dr. and Mrs. P. Vandertramp. Here's the and, you guys. I'm so excited about this. We've been waiting all semester. What's the and? And all reflexive verbs. So, anytime you're using a reflexive verb in the past to say what you did or what someone else did in the past, you use être as the helping verb. Here it is. Notice the reflexive pronoun is still there. It's not that complicated. You just have to remember, okay, je me, that's what makes it reflexive. Je me suis lavé. I washed myself. Tu t'es couché. You went to bed. Past tense. Il s'est reposé. He relaxed. Nous nous sommes dépêchés. We hurried up. And we move on. Oh, where'd the rest of them go? I don't have the rest of them on this slide. Well, can you guess what the next one would be? Vous vous êtes lavé. Ils se sont arrêtés. Okay, so I don't know why they're not on here, but I bet you'll find them on page 304 if you consult your textbook. The only thing you have to remember differently between this and other past tense verbs is that little reflexive pronoun, je me suis, and then the past participle of whatever verb you choose to use. And since most of these, like 99.9% of these, are regular ER verbs, it's just going to be the E with the accent aigu. Now, do you see I have a little extra E here? an extra E here, and I should, there it is, an S or potentially an ES at the end. That's because, remember, être verbs in the passé composé always have agreement. So if the subject, if you're a girl and you say, je me suis lavé, you'd have an extra E. And down here with nous, since you're talking about more than one person, nous is always plural. It's nous sommes dépêchés with an S. So keep that in mind. That's another little detail to remember. I've given you some practice for this. So here are a bunch of reflexive verbs, some from this chapter, some from the previous chapter. Put them in the passé composé. Use your reflexive pronoun, your helping verb, which is être, and the past participle. For here, there are 6 of these, and then I gave you some more. There are 6 more, 7 more. Aren't you lucky? That's what you need to submit to me on Google Classroom for this week, and when you do, then I'll know that you have learned your reflexive verbs. Class, I'm so excited for this lesson. Good to chat with you. Hope you are having a great week. This is the final push. Finish strong so you can move forward next year. Merci. À bientôt et au revoir.